Okay, interesting evening today. I've been having like some spiritual conversations with God and Satan, Lucifer. I don't know what to call him, so I've called him Reverend who? Who is it? Oh, I've lost it. I'll come across it in a bit. Anyway, I was having a conversation with him, and like he was kind of talking about his children. A thought popped into my mind about if anyone has tortured Satan himself, like because of all these satanic rituals. And he says yes, via his children. So, like he was kind of thinking he was clever to actually contaminate the human line with his seed and stuff. But he ended up being tortured himself because of what happened to his seed line. He also says, I'm in your bloodline too, and everybody else's bloodline, because we are all a bit mixed up. I kind of knew that anyway. It's just that I, like kind of wondering whether it's like bloodstock, like whether, like you link up with a virtuous man or woman, and like that bloodstock kind of comes more reverent for God rather than rebellious towards him. And we was having kind of a conversation about like this amalgamation between the two. Like we're in a position now like where there's like a kind of coming back to God, Christ, because like we've gone too far now, like with all the secular stuff, the trans and the gay, like kind of anything goes. And like we're really far from God, like sin, as I say, with America, is kind of put on a plate and elevated. Like we've come to the end of that kind of era now, and things are about to get stripped. Like we've got to look back to God, and like there was a lot of interplay with like well, kind of me. I was kind of put on the spot with like my kind of like pull towards gothic stuff, or like that kind of secular image. And I have a lot of pulls within myself, thinking, is this right? And then like God was, like reiterating that thing in the Bible about don't be too good, don't be too bad. Like that like because of this line in us, we can't be too extremes, like we have to be in the middle somewhere. But, ideally we need to be closer to God, like say this like 10 Commandments thing, we've got to fall away from that kind of severe sinning. God's saying that, it's not, it's impossible to be perfect, but, like to be as reverent or, like as close to God's remit is the best way, like back to marriage, like back for an appreciation with each other. But it's like a very funny grey area, because I was literally having conversations between both, like, is it impossible to kind of, expect like, like 100% full-on committed relationship, like with somebody, because like this seems to be a bit of a theme at the moment, especially in my life and stuff, and my mum's. Like, is it impossible to expect, like 100% commitment from another person? Or, like, we do have to be kind of realistic that, like these people are prone to failure and sin. And like you were saying, more or less 3/4 over, to the scale, like to go as far ahead towards Christ, like all God's ideal of marriage as possible, and chuck out the rest. And it seems to me that like when you're in marriage, you have to kind of work at it, and you kind of have to gauge that person, like if you get involved with them, do a testing period, like whether they respect you and things like that, and like what you're willing to put up with, like if you heading towards marriage. And after the experience that I've had, marriage is the only way. I think that like two people have to be serious enough to make that commitment to each other, and it has to be that way. And like this other side that's the unrealistic side, it's needs to fall away a bit, I think, quite a bit. So it was like a really strange conversation tonight. How much of this secular garment do you keep? Like say for instance with me, I'm totally hot for God, but I like all piercings, and I'm slightly alternative in my nature. My music is slightly alternative. I suppose that's nothing in the grand scheme of things, but like how far is too far? That's like a questioning thing I'm doing with God at the moment. Anyway, like God says, I'm in your bloodline and we're all mixed up. This is why I'm attracted to secular things and not attracted to it, because like it's very hard gauging, one way or the other, like where your personality lies and who you hang out with and things like that. It's not intrinsically part of you. God is using Satan to punish the bad children in V2K. It feels like sorcerer's hands on them, like it feels like there's wolves going on. I don't know if anyone's been killed in V2K, but like he seems to have these periods of severe correction, especially that a lot of them are like putting a lot of pressure on me, blaming me, like stuff like that because of him. Like he hasn't done anything for them, but it actually takes them to get up and like get up and fight and use his truth to stand on. They're kind of a bit lazy in their mindedness, like that it actually starts from them too. This is why the world's in such a mess, because everyone leaves it to someone else. And I know that God has a part in that, because there are some things that we can't control. They're bigger than us and stuff, but it doesn't stop us from trying, because he says he's with you. What else is there? God was saying, like that Satan, it's really strange what to call him, but he's in a fallen state, so his name's Satan. Like God is always in control of him. He's like a dog on a leash, and he's very peculiar, and like he's going on about this third way psychosis that God has. And he does as well, because like you can't quite work him out, because he can attack people who you think who are with him, like it's all very confusing, but God is at the back of it. And as I say, like back to that thing that Satan is playing chess with himself, like God is humouring him, so like the ultimate, Omega is him, to be fearful of him. Between all God's children and otherwise, using confusion whilst they're talking with Satan. So whilst I was actually talking with him and God was there, he was kind of looking a bit scrunched up faced. Like there was the earthly children were like making a lot of confusion and making a lot of light of the situation and filling in with their own ideas. So, like it was quite clear that Satan, under God's watch, was trying to put across truthfully in this circumstance, but don't trust him. Like how it is, like, and it almost seems like he was the kind of Chinese whisperer, to these children, and like it seems that mankind seems to make a big thing out of Satan's lies, and it's almost like he's amused at what they come up with. Like the way they're torturing me for a start, they're really hurting me around my middle. They think they're doing the right thing, Some of them claim that they don't believe in Satan, or they don't do this or that for him, or sacrifice. Some of them do. Some of them are like believing in the alchemy of it, the science bit, which I know it's to do with the science bit, and like God's kind of indicating that a lot of it is all made up. It's what they've made out of, and they're like kind of sitting perplexed now, can feel them. Like, oh, we're not sure now, we're not sure of this, what we've based our system on. That's what I was going to call him, Reverent Fallen. So he's kind of reverent for God, but in a fallen state. So, he's still mischievous, but under God's watch. And it's used for testing and stuff, and putting things right and making them see the error of the way seasonally, because he has like an end of sale season, I think, where he clears it all up. I was trying to read information, and it seemed like his children of the earth are in the most error, as it just says, as they have scribbled in a lot of information in between. So that's the end of this third way psychosis lesson for today.